Hello, bonjour, hola, assalamualaikum, selamat sejahtera. Welcome to COMAT 2024. I'm Zain, your AI host for today. I'd like to go over a few points as a reminder to all audience on the etiquette of attending this webinar. First, everyone who attends this webinar will be given an e-certificate after each session. Therefore, do not forget to register your full name once the link for registration is open. Make sure it is typed correctly and your email address is accurate too. Only for teachers or education officers in Malaysia, please make sure you also provide your IC number. You will find the registration link is pinned in the live chat box of this YouTube channel. Second, teachers from Malaysia, don't forget to also register your attendance in SPL KPM. The registration link will be released 10 minutes before the session is over. Third, we would love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have any questions for our speaker, please feel free to send them through the YouTube live chat box. The speaker will be answering your questions by the end of the session. If we don't answer your questions during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow through afterwards. Fourth, be respectful of others. When communicating, please be polite. Impolite language will not be tolerated. An audience who are rude will be removed from the webinar. Finally, we would appreciate it if you could share today's webinar with others through your social networks. Thank you for taking time to listen to this announcement. See you again soon. Terima kasih. Arigato. Kamsahamnida.
Selamat datang, good day, and welcome to the International and Domestic Virtual Curriculum, or COMAT 2024, organized by the Institute of Teacher Education, International Languages Campus, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I am Dr. Nur Izzati binti Wan Fuad, and I am the moderator for today's curriculum session. Today's session is called Grading Can Be So Much Fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on our live EduWeb TV YouTube channel for COMAT 2024. The theme for this year's curriculum is Responsible Education for a Dignified Future. Similar to previous year's installments, the goal of this curriculum is to provide the space for educators all around the world to discuss, share, and exchange views with fellow educators on topics related to education and how it is transforming globally. Indeed, through this curriculum, there is plenty to learn and expand our knowledge. COMAT 2024 brings you 18 series in the form of individual webinars with speakers from Malaysia and abroad. This is the sixth series of our virtual curriculum, and I hope you will stay tuned till the end of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, grading in education refers to the evaluation and assessment of students' work, such as assignments, tests, and projects, to determine their level of understanding or proficiency in the particular subject. Grading can be done using various methods, including letter grades A, B, C, D, numerical scores, okay, 1 to 100, or descriptive feedback. So now, allow me to introduce our speaker for today. Grading can be so much fun. Please welcome Ms. Nurhalina binti Abdul Rahman. Ladies and gentlemen, for your information, she is a science teacher and an edufluencer from SK Putrajaya Precinct 18. Her focus is on hands-on approach in teaching and learning, which has garnered attention among the Malaysian educators. Our next speaker is Ms. Sofiatul Raunakia binti Muhammad. She is an English language teacher and also an edufluencer from Escape Trajaya Precinct 16. Okay. Her expertise is in grading and classroom assessment, which includes the use of Telegram in keeping track of a student's performance. So, our third and final speaker for today is Ms. Nurfazila binti Nik Kamal, or more famously known as Teacher Dila. She is an English language teacher and also an edufluencer from SK Hulu Cloud Selangor. So, Alhamdulillah, ladies and gentlemen, well, in education, there are different types of assessments, okay, used to measure students' knowledge, skills, and understanding. So this assessment can be classified into various categories such as depending on their format and timing, such as formative, summative, diagnostic, and portfolio. Okay, so can we start with Ms. Nurhalina? Would you please enlighten us on the assessments which are currently being practiced in Malaysia?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Izati. Thank you for having us in COMAT this year. Okay, so for in terms of academic progress for Malaysian pupils in Malaysian schools, we have formative and also summative assessments. The first one, which is very well known, is the PBD, or classroom assessment. It is a form of formative assessment, and we also have national examination, public exam. We used to have this. Malaysia is known as a exam-oriented with the education system. We used to have UPSR, which pupils in year 6 at the end of their primary school, they have this big exam, UPSR, but it was cancelled in 2020 and abolished altogether in 2021. And then we also had PT3 for Form 3 pupils in the middle of the secondary school, but that one was also cancelled in 2020 and 2021 and abolished altogether in 2022. But now we only have one major exam, national exam, which is SPM, at the end, at the final year of the secondary school, when pupils are 17 years old, on 5, they will sit for this major exam. It is said that that will determine their future. Okay, and for those who will go to Form 6, they will also sit for STPM after 2 years. So these are the assessment that we have in Malaysia. And what we're focusing today is on PBD, because PBD is formative, and we assess pupils throughout their learning journey since the second week of their schooling session until the end of the schooling session. Okay, but remember, we also have UASA, which is the final academic session exam for each year. For year one, and it's actually for year 4, 5, 6, and also in secondary school. Okay, so allow me to show you a little bit in detail about PBD for science, because I'm a science teacher. So this is an excerpt from a PBD report that teachers have to key in. So as you can see here, for science, it's very different from language. We have 7 themes that we have to assess pupils. As you can see here, there are life science, physical science, materials, and for each theme, there are actually subtopics, if you can say. Okay, for example, for physical science, there are, okay, let me show you here. Okay, there are 3 topics under the theme of physical science. So for each topic, there will be the PBD for that. And for example, I'm going to show you for the topic of light, if you can see here, from performance level 1 or TP1 or band 1, we can say, until uh, performance level 6. So we teachers, we need to assess pupils from level 1 until the maximum that each pupil can reach, can achieve. So we cannot just jump, okay, today I'm going to assess you on only on PL4. So we cannot do that. We have to go step by step. So that is how science teachers do it. So can you imagine, for this team, physical science, we have 3. This is for year 4 science, 3 topics. And then after we have assessed these 3 topics, we have to put like one, maybe average for that team. And after all has been done, at the end, we have to put just one performance level for that pupil for science subject, for science subject. So that is how we do it here in Malaysia. Okay, so it is quite tedious, one might say. I'm showing you, for example, for science year 3, for the topic of density. So to make it simple, pupils actually they have a textbook as well as activity book with them. So in the activity book, there are actually like worksheets that actually address some of the descriptors in the for PBD. So for example, this is taken from a page from that activity book, which all pupils in Malaysia, they have this for year 3. So this will address the performance level 2. And what about performance level 6? One might ask. This is a most common question that parents ask. How can my kid get performance level 6 or TP6? Macam mana anak I nak dapat TP6 ni? Okay. So sometimes for science, the TP6 descriptor is not explicitly shown in the content standard. So teachers can use their own creativity to design how to assess these pupils. For example, I may bring in a boy to the classroom and ask, they have learned about density, so they can present, okay, how can this object help us in our daily life, for example. So if they can achieve that according to the descriptor, so that pupil can get performance level 6. Okay, Dr. Izzati.
All right. Thank you, Miss Halina. I find that Having the ability for the teacher, okay, to identify and then make their own adjustments, okay, when it's needed, is very helpful. In terms that I feel is not that rigid, so it is up to the teacher to actually acknowledge the kids' performance. Okay, thank you again for your insight, ladies and gentlemen. Malaysia currently has steered away from being overly dependent on major exams, okay, such as CPSR, no more PT3, and has now welcomed the use of classroom-based assessment, as how Ms. Nurhalina has introduced earlier. So, Ms. Nurfatila or Teacher Dila, in reference to your experience in Scotland, okay, what are your thoughts about our classroom-based assessment in Malaysia itself? Is there any possible parts that we could incorporate in Malaysia?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Izati. Thank you for the question. But before I begin, I would like to clarify that I have only had the experience with Scottish education system as a mother. My daughter has had the privilege of attending primary and secondary school in Scotland while I was doing my postgraduate study. So I will be speaking from a mother's perspective, not a teacher's perspective. So I will be using anecdotal stories. I can share that one thing that strikes me the most is that the students are involved in setting their educational goals for the semester. Um, I can give you an example. At the beginning of the semester, students are called to school, and students and the teacher and parents will sit together, and then they will look at the students' current stage, where they are at, and then teachers will specifically explain to the students what are the specific learning outcomes that the students will have to achieve within that specific semester, for example, within the next 3 months or 6 months, in order to get to the next stage. Okay, let me give you an example in Malaysian context. For example, if your child is for English, she's in TP3. So what if they do it? If we do it the Scottish style, student will be sat down and they will be told that in the next 3 months, if you wish to move up to TP4, these are the learning outcomes that you are supposed to achieve. I'll give you an example because it's very simple, it's achievable, and it's understandable by the student. For example, for reading, in the next 3 months, if you can be able to read and understand what you read, and then for listening, if you're able to listen and understand what you hear, then you are able to move to the next stage. So I think when you involve students and then you sit together and then students, parents, and teachers agree what are the specific goals that everyone is working towards, so that makes it clearer and more achievable. Another experience is that via Majlis Anugerah Akhir Tahun, it's a bit different than ours. Instead of awarding academic performance, students are only awarded for their excellence in their attitude, in their values and skills. So academic reports are only sent home after the school has been closed, after the holiday has started. So here you can see that academic achievements are kept private, but other skills and attributes are celebrated openly, and exam results are being kept confidential. So I think that's a point to ponder. If we were to do that in Malaysia, do you think that would work? Like you keep all the exams result to yourself, only you and your parents know. But your Hari Anugerah Keseimbangan is all about how talented and skillful you are as an artist, as a writer, how nice you are to your friends. So to answer Dr. Izzati's question whether this is applicable in Malaysia, I think I leave it to the audience because I'm not here to tell you what you should do and how you should do it, because teachers and schools themselves, they know their students better than anyone else. So if we were to adapt and apply how school-based assessment are done in other countries, we need to think of the cultural relevance
Mm-mm.
to our country, and then the teacher training, whether it's enough or not, and most importantly, the infrastructure that we have,
Mm.
and also classroom size, most
Right.
importantly.
Yeah.
Because if you were to sit your students down and discuss the students' target for the next 3 months or the next 6 months, you really need the time,
Yeah.
because if you were to do that for 30 students in one class and you're teaching three classes, so it's doable for some schools, I must say, but
Mhm.
for bigger schools it's not feasible. So I really trust the teachers and the schools to decide based on the stories that I've shared. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Dila. That's a very interesting sharing. My favorite from my what I took from your description on what has been done in Scotland, and I'm sure it's still being done in Scotland, is the fact that the parents and teacher would sit together, and then they would kind of identify the level that the student or the kid would be able to achieve. So when the student is like aware of his or her weakness, and the level that he or she could achieve, I feel that it would provide sense of motivation for the student. So I think that that is a strength that I can see from the Scottish education. So we hope that Malaysia could continue practicing and improving our own classroom-based assessment practice in order to ensure successful learning among the students. So next, Ms. Sofieto, would you like to share your thoughts about the strengths of PBD?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Izati, for that question. I'm actually very excited to answer that question, and I feel like I can sort of relate to both of my panelists. So, Puan Halina actually touched on the exam-oriented parts of our education system, and Puan Fazila touched on the Scottish education system. And the thing is, I was very privileged to have had the chance to actually grow up in the United Kingdom, because my dad worked there when I was in primary school and also in secondary school. So I can relate to a lot of the experiences that Puan Fazila's daughter also experienced. So she is definitely right when she said that one of the strengths with PBD is that it's more holistic in nature. They will celebrate a student's competency more than just their academic potential. I remember, like, in the UK, I was given certificates and awards for listening attentively, for being kind to others, for being a good friend, and for other aspects of my abilities as well. Like, for example, if you're really good in art, you would get awards for that. So yeah, I definitely see, like, the strengths of PBD. You can definitely take note from countries like the United Kingdom. And then I think it's also like, in order for you to really see the strengths of PBD, you might want to compare how it was back then. When I came back to Malaysia, it was still very much exam oriented, and I had some sort of a bit of a culture shock, I would say, because 5 years living in the UK, we only had 3 examinations, and then when I came back to Malaysia, in just 1 year, we had 4 examinations. So it was a very shocking experience for me. And I remember, like, at the time, there was this like over glorification of grades, and then you tend to see students only for their potential on what they can show on paper, other than things that they can do outside of their exam papers. And this is, it's very, PVD is very positive in nature, because I remember there was this one exam where I was very good in the subject, but I felt very ill when I took the exam, and I couldn't take it any other time. And the performance that I showed reflected as if I'm very bad at the subject, when in fact I was actually quite good in the subject. It was art. And I think with PBD, such issues will not arise, because there are many points of evaluation. Like with examinations, there's just that one point where the teacher will evaluate on how you performed. But with PBD, teachers will have many areas to look upon. Like, it's not just for that one lesson; it's going to be multiple lesson. It's an accumulation of performance in order to give you the most perfect performance level.
Okay, so because of that, I feel that PBD is growth oriented, right? So it's not product oriented. It celebrates students actually growing, and when it's formative in nature, you do have to like give feedback to the students on how they have performed, and then make sure that they are, you know, making improvements, trying to actually get better as the year goes on. And because there's this, you know, ongoing feedback, it's very easy to actually see students improve throughout the year than just see them at just one point of the year, especially at the end. Like some students, they are not able to give us an ace or, you know, any good grades, but they are able to know, you know, to improve from, say, just 20% to a 40%. And I feel that that is something that should be celebrated. Like
Mhm.
with the exam oriented system, we are only seeing students who are getting A's, who are getting good marks, but with PBD we are celebrating these small wins, these small achievements. So yeah, I really feel that PBD is a very positive uh, you know, improvement to our education system. And I feel that students will feel more welcome at schools when they know that they are not only looked at their academic potential. So yeah.
Thank you, Miss Sofiato. I am impressed personally at how much of that experience have um, molded you into, you know, having this kind of thought and positive thought towards BBD. So before we move on, I just have a quick question. Okay, based on your experience being in the UK assessment system, what can teachers in Malaysia do now to enhance our own PBD procedures?
That question is for me, right?
Yes, dear.
Okay, so I have actually adopted a lot of the methods that my teachers in the UK have done. One of it is that I know that students should be celebrated for more than just academics, right? So what I've done is I created this system called ready-made certificates, where I print a bunch of empty certificates, like, you know, certificates for good listeners, for good teamwork, for good team players, so on and so forth. And what I do is that whenever a students perform according to the certificate title, I simply write their names on the certificate and I give them straight away, and that gets them to be very motivated. I feel like you know, students know that they are not just celebrated for their ability to score examinations. They know that, oh, as a teacher, I'm also appreciating that you are being kind to your friends. I'm appreciating that the fact that you are a very good leader. So, you know, students should be made aware that they are capable in many areas other than just their performance on paper. And other than that, I feel we used to be quite a punitive kind of society. I think uh, like we used to glorify the use of you know, corporal punishment and whatnot. And I think we forget that other than deterring bad behavior, good behavior should also be encouraged. Like that is something that should be taught as well. So I really like it when, you know, you don't have to come up with gifts or whatever. It's things like, you know, praises. It's things like stickers, something that are very sustainable, something that are very doable, even in the Malaysian context. And what it has to do with PBD, like even though say behavior is not a part of the weightage in the performance level, with PBD you do have this space for comments, right? And in that comments is called ulasan in the PBD report. So in that comments, teachers are supposed to comment on students for other than their just performance level. Like I remember, like one of the strengths with the UK education system is that, and this is hugely to the fact that they have smaller classroom sizes. But I think in Malaysia you can do it like a very mellow version of it, where you just write about what the students have shown in class for other than their academics. Like this student is very participative in class, this student is a very attentive listener, this student is very participative when it comes to games, like whatever. I think there's always something positive that you can point out about your students. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pietro, okay, for that wonderful sharing. So I believe that now we, the viewers, okay, the audience, have figured out a few things that we can actually adjust, include, okay, in our own practices. So moving on. Okay, based on your personal experience, okay, how has the classroom-based assessment been carried out? Okay, can you please share a bit more on your use of Telegram?
Okay, so in 2022, I came up with this innovation called PBD Telecam. So the reason I came about with that innovation is that I realized when I wanted to give students their performance level, I was forced to like look at the exercise book one, exercise book two, and then I was checking my Google Drive, my phone, their folders, and it was just like multiple, because you are supposed to use all the evidence that you have collected in order to give a very fair performance level to the kids. It cannot be like just one example in order to judge their performance, right? So I felt that was very burdensome, and I thought like, okay, I need some sort of innovation where all of the evidence are stored in like some sort of one stop center for all of their achievements throughout the year. So I thought of using something that teachers all over Malaysia can also use, which was Telegram. So now there are several versions of it. For my first version, what I did was I created a channel for each student. So I changed the name of the channel to the name of the student, and then I changed the picture of the channel to the picture of the student. The reason being is because in Malaysia we have large classroom sizes and we are teaching multiple classes, and we have like several Anis and several Adams, and when we have the picture together with the names, is easier for teachers to reflect back on how the students have performed in class. So I thought that was a very important aspect. And then what I did was, in order to make the management aspect a lot easier, I grouped those channels together and I put it in a chat folder with with the chat folder being the name of their class. And so I'm going to show you on the screen, right, on how it's done. And so what happens is, when I have created all these channels, I've stored all of the evidence in their respective channels. Like for example, the students speaking assessments, the students reading assessments, the things that they have done in their exercise book, the projects, or the recordings that I have of them, all I put it according to their channels. And whenever I have to give a performance level, what I do is I simply scroll through what is it that they have done throughout the year, and then I will be more confident, and I feel I will be a lot more fair when I have had a very holistic view of how they perform. And the second version of the PBD Telecam was that I used this new system in Telegram, which is the use of topics, where instead of having the name of the topics, I am actually changing the name of the topics to the name of the students. So this is a lot easier if you have more than 3 classes. The first version of PBD Telecam. So again, the first version of PBD Telecam, it was a bit more tedious because you say I had like around 100 students, I would have to create more than 100 channels. So this is the bit more tedious version. But the second version, because teachers were telling me, oh, I love your PBD Telecam idea, Miss Sophia, but it's just too much for me because I have more than 100 students. So I came up with the second version, which I call PBD Telecam 2.0, where teachers would only need to create one group, and then they would have to upgrade the group to a super group. This is all free, by the way. And then create topics where the name of the topics are the name of the students. And then the process is more or less the same, where you are simply dump the evidence throughout the year into the respective topics, and then whenever you have to give a performance level, you have all this evidence collected, so you be a lot you feel more confident in giving the PL. And what another good thing about PBD Telecam is that it's something that can be inherited. So I remember a colleague of mine was inheriting my class. She was teaching the class that I taught the previous year. I simply had to change the group admin to her, and she does not need to create any more groups or any more channels. She can simply simply inherited what I have done already. And it's great to see that she can see, oh, how much these students have improved from the point when I taught them and now that she has taught them. So that's another, I say, a positive aspect of this innovation. And I've had a lot of teachers, not just English. I've even had art teachers, especially, tell me on how the PBD Telecam is definitely beneficial for them because they are creating a lot of artwork. And of course, teachers cannot be storing the artwork at school all the time. So they can simply snap the work and then they can get the students to bring those artwork home. Yeah. So that's all on Telegram.
That's all on PBD Telecom 2.0. Thank you so much, Miss Sofiato. I myself am impressed. I wish that I have come up with this idea myself. All right. So just a quick one. Can we come back to what we have discussed earlier on certificates? So, certificates are considered as a form of reward. So, ladies, do you think giving certificates is it important? Do you think that there are other types of rewards that we should, give our students? What are your ideas?
Take this.
Okay. Okay.
I think it really depends on the level you're teaching at. I tried to give certificates to level one students. I don't think they really understand the weight of certificates. So for level one, stickers works.
Yeah.
So I think level two, they will appreciate certificates.
Mm-hmm.
What about
Yeah.
Charlina?
Yeah, I think certificates are great and awesome because we have label like you're good at something instead of just giving tokens or sweets or candies. It's just, and after you finish eating it, then that's it. But for certificates, even 5 years later, 10 years later, oh, I remember I did this.
Yes,
And
yes.
the teacher, I so remember the teacher.
Yeah.
And that makes learning is such a very good experience for them. So I
Yeah.
really applaud
Yeah.
the idea with Sophia about the certificates.
Yeah, and I totally agree when she said that when we have certificates, we can collect them and look back on our years in school. And I still keep the certificates that I was given to when I was in primary school. Like, it's such a good reminder. Oh, I was given this certificate for being a very good public speaker, for being kind to others. So I think, yeah, definitely that about collecting those certificates is just a good positive reinforcement. Yeah. And like Teacher Dila or Puan Fazila said, it's not just certificates, anything positive, really. Yeah. If your students are not responding positively to certificates, then you can do anything that makes the students feel good. Sometimes you can actually have a discussion with the kids on what is it that they need to do well in school. I think that can be something very transparent.
Yes, I agree to that. I feel that if we kind of include the students into, taking their consideration and what would they prefer, okay, then that would be beneficial. I feel that having sets, it's like a very tangible reward. Like it's something they can always keep, they can always look back. So as a person, you can see like continuous improvement. That's for me personally. So Miss Fazila, would you like to share your classroom-based practices in school?
I think when it comes to best practices with assessment, I think my focus is more on connecting with parents and students because admittedly I use Miss Sophia's PBD Telecam, but that's because assessment is a process. That's the before, during, and after. So during is what happens in the classroom between you and the students. So I use Miss Sophia's PBD Telecom is one of them, one of the way I manage and organize my assessment. But what I would like to share here today is the before and after. So I have this pre-assessment engagement where I will send home a form for parents to fill out, asking them to list important things that they want me to know as their child's teacher. Because I believe that when you need to assess someone, you need to know the person. You need to gauge their strength, their interests. So I think for the assessment to be fair and consistent, you need to build relationship with them first. So parents are usually eager to contribute because who doesn't? Like when you're asked to list down things about your child, you'd be very excited. Like answers that I get from parents are usually like she's very caring at home, she's a good sister, or she likes arts and craft, or she loves singing, she loves cooking and baking. So all these information that I get from parents help me understand students' interests. So from this information, I created activities that will be used for assessments. So meaning that the activities for assessments are tailored based on their needs and interests. Okay, so that's before assessment.
Mhm.
But after the post-assessment reporting, as we have previously discussed, Puan Halina touched on, and Sophia also touched on, our education system seem to be heavily relying on academic performance.
Yeah.
So for post-assessment reporting, I'm doing my part to make sure that there's balance.
Mhm.
For example, other than the required academic performance report that we have to give to parents, I also provide another personalized report that celebrate students' integrity,
Yeah.
empathy,
Mhm.
other attributes that we would want for our students to have. So in this report, it will be very personal. For example, like I know a, a, a boy who is a straight A student, but I think he needs to be nicer to his friends. So I mentioned those kind of things in the report. So it's for parents to see side by side along with the list of A's and the post-assessment report that describes their child's uh, attitudes and values in the classroom. So those are the two things, before and after.
Okay. All right. Thank you, my dear. I can see that I feel the strength of your idea is to have like pre, whereby once you started having that pre, okay, that's a notion in the parents' head and the kids' head, what they are good at and what else, what more they can be. And I feel that what I can take from this is from, after listening to three of you ladies, I feel that the strength of PPD is the student's individual development rather than just whether how much A's or how high the TP is. So that's how I see it now, which is very interesting and very, I think, very important in this time, I feel. So, Miss Halina, we have been hearing and discussing a lot on the strengths of the classroom-based assessment, PBD. So, based on your own experience, is there any issues or challenges that you have personally found as you are, carrying out this PBD in school?
All right. The challenges of having this BBD assessment, there are, I would say, a variety of it. Okay, the first one, we need to remember that PBD, we assess pupils based on our observation, verbal, and also in writing, not only in writing, but also during group work, during discussions. So teachers are assessing their pupils. But traditionally, teachers only assess for writing exams or now maybe worksheets and homework. So that is the first challenge, is that the mentality of teachers, it is not one or two steps further, but three or four steps more that the teachers have to do, instead of just going to the classroom and ask, oh, where did we stop, and just continue with the next lesson. No, now teachers have to actually look at the DSKP first and list out the descriptors that they want to assess your pupils during the lesson. So each time the teachers go into the classroom, they actually have to assess. So I think that is the first challenge. That is the first challenge for teachers. So maybe there's a lack of training, or maybe um, too much workload for teachers. Can you imagine just go into the classroom and just teach? But now they have to design their own assessment. So that is, I think that's the first challenge. And the other one is, I think the main challenge is the standardization and also consistency, because PPD involves a degree of subjectivity in assessing pupils' achievement or performance. So to ensure that the consistency and fairness for different teachers and different classes is quite difficult, actually. Um, Maybe one pupil in class A, for example, he got maybe performance level 4, but his standard is quite the same as another people in another class of performance level 6. So if parents question why my kid, I think my kid is better in certain things, that is like there's no standardization, there's no consistency when it involves different teachers and different understanding among teachers themselves, and also lack of uniformity. Okay, with teachers having the flexibility to design, like I said, their assessments, there can be it's hard to compare the students' performance across different classes, like I told you just now. And then we also have time constraints, because for example, science, we only have 2 hours of contact time for each week. So, and as I've shown you before, we have a lot of themes and a lot of topics to cover, and for each topic we have those 6 performance levels that we need to at least give the pupils chance to achieve. So that is another challenge that teachers are facing. And also I would say that it's lack of maybe mentoring or something like that, because certain teachers, they like to do their own way. Whatever trainings they were given, whatever maybe the admins tell them to do, but they will only do it their way. It's like, okay, this is how I do it, because it's my classroom, I know my pupils. So that is one of the main challenges of PBD, I believe.
Okay, so yes. Oh, wait, hold on, yeah. I can see that we one of our speakers are like, raring to go. Okay, yes, Ishadila, is it you? Would you like to share?
When Halina mentioned about uniformity and standardization, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, because students have their own individual milestone. They are racing their own race. And that brings back to the questions that I asked earlier. Should students' academic reports be kept confidential? Because the issue here now is, other than teachers struggling to assess students the way PBD intended, we also have parents. I remember Puan Harina mentioning parents asking, how can I get my child to get to P6?
Yeah.
P6 is a formative assessment. Formative assessment is meant to be a process. So they shouldn't compare that P6 with UASA. So if parents were to compare grades, they should just, if they want to see products, they should just look at UASA.
Yes.
And they shouldn't even interfere with the process of PBD, because it's the child's own journey.
Yeah.
So I guess, should we not reveal students' academic performance?
Yeah.
Keep
that's
it
a good
private,
question.
so that parents cannot compare.
Yeah, I think that is something that we should think about, right?
It's definitely a cultural shift from what we used to, because like the reason why a lot of parents want the examinations back is because they want to compare, like they somehow, there's a thrill in that, I guess. They like comparing their kids to their cousins, because they feel that that is some sort of motivation, or like when they say that the cousin is better, then their kid will be more motivated to actually do better. So I think maybe parents themselves needs to have a mind shift on how to better motivate their kids. And yeah, so that is definitely something to ponder, whether we should keep it confidential.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Okay, so there are very, I think, like serious issues challenges that need to be considered, okay, in making sure and ensuring that this school-based assessment is being carried out, not correctly, but
In
at
the
its
right path.
best capacity, I
Yeah.
feel. So, talking about challenges, one major challenge is the huge or large class size. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is actually a very recent question by one of our viewers. And yes, I feel that this is a very apt question, something that we have to address. So, ladies, what do you think? Miss Halina, would you like to start first?
Yeah. Like for example, in my school, most the classes are almost reach 40. Some classes even reach 42 for the LP classes. The LP classes are very heavily sought after. So for science, because like I told you before, it's very different from assessment for language, because we have topics and specific content standards that we have to assess the pupils. So one way, easy way, is to do hands-on activities. For example, do experiments and ask them to bring stuff. They really love bringing stuff to school, bringing fruits or food, for example. And when we do this group work, we can actually it saves a lot of time instead of asking personally one by one. So that's one way. Or asking verbally, or asking drilling them to say, for example, okay, spiracles are the breathing organ for insects. Okay, what do insects breathe? What do they use to breathe? Spiracle. So we back and forth drill, and that is actually achieving the performance level 1. So okay, check. So that's easy for a very large classroom. But because we cannot do anything about it, because that is how Malaysian schools are. We have lots of kids in a classroom. So for science, it's for me, uh, doing hands-on work together, and at the end of the work, we have to make a conclusion. Everyone give their reflections in a group, or you can say it to your friends. How do they feel? What they have learned? And most important is they connect what they have learned in the lab or in the classroom with whatever they have experienced outside. Because science is actually everything around you. It involves everything around you. So when they can connect back to what they have seen before, what they have observed, or now they understand, and when they present that, when they say that, that can be assessed to by the teachers.
Okay, thank you, my dear. So it seems that drilling is not just, asking the kids to memorize. No, 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 no. Yeah, actually, it's a way of encouraging the students to actually process. Okay, what
Yes.
the level of information or knowledge that they're supposed to be able to acquire, and to be able to show or like say it out loud, right? As proof that yes, they have achieved DP1, DP2, DP3, etc. So what about Ms. Nafazila? Is there anything that you would like to share about any possible, changes that are needed to ensure that PBD could be carried out successfully? Any suggestions?
I would like to answer the question just now regarding a large classroom size. I think a lot of teachers are forgetting that you can do tests when you are dealing with a large class. Um, just because PBD is in place, it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to do tests. You can do tests at class level, um, and that's one of the that's one of the method that you're allowed to use. Constant quizzes and tests, that is also part of summative assessment. So I think a lot of us seem to forget that. Yeah. So just, it's all about creating balance, because we've been doing exams for most of the time. Now we are shifting to classroom-based assessment. It doesn't mean that we cannot go back and forth.
Yeah.
So, like I say, it's all about creating balance. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah,
Sadia?
I definitely agree when she said that we think that with PBD we are now anti-examinations. We cannot do tests. That is not how PBD is supposed to be actually. With PBD, you absolutely can do tests, like even in the format that it was used to. It's not as high stakes as it was before, and it's more catered to the potential of students according to classroom, rather than it being very standardized, in the national way. And like, in order for you to even celebrate PBD more, but still say if you need the examinations because you have so many students in one class, what I've done personally is that I have created the test papers in accordance to the learning standards. So I pick out the learning standards that have to be covered in a certain year, and then I create my worksheets or my test items based on that learning standard, and I simply give a mark. And then the accumulation of that mark will give me, what how students have performed for each standard. So you're not neglecting the PBD part. So because with PBD, you cannot escape from learning standards, and the DSKP is something that you have to keep close by.
Yep.
Because
Correct.
it tallies very closely with the uh, performance level descriptors. So that is something that you always have to study as well. So you just marry the two. You marry the learning standards, and you marry together the examination component. Yeah. So uh, that is what I tell a lot of my teacher friends who are, minor teachers, because minor teachers, I totally get you. I hear you. There have been a lot of complaints about, you are teaching up till 7 classes, and each class there can be like 45 kids. So how do I do that? So if you feel that examinations or test papers is something that will make it easier for you to evaluate them, then go ahead. I feel like there shouldn't be, and I think administrators need to understand this as well. Because I've had complaints where they said that admins would not allow it because supposedly with PBD
No.
you cannot do it. But I think that's just a misconception. Even in the manual itself, it does say that uh, test papers are a part of the evaluation. Yeah.
I think another thing that we should address also is there are pupils, even in big cities, pupils who uh, do not attend school. So
Mm.
it's hard for us to assess that pupil. Maybe he or she comes to school once a month or once a week. So those are the things that we should also consider when we assess pupils too, right?
Yep. Like
Thank
for
you.
language, I remember, sorry, Dr. Izati. I remember, like, I had a student who was always absent. So like, because I had the PBD telecam system, so I realized that this kid was always absent because there's literally nothing in his channel. So whenever he would be in attendance, I would quickly call him up and ask him to show me, like, because with language is a lot easier because it's not content based.
Yeah.
It's skill based. Yeah. So it's skill based is a lot easier. So like, for example, okay, I want you to like introduce yourself in English, because those were the rare occurrence of him coming to school, right? So I can give him a TP based on that. But I understand that with content based, it can be a bit more difficult because you have to do it according to the topic. So that is definitely one challenge. I think with content based subjects, it can be a bit more tricky in comparison to skill based subjects. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ladies. All right, for that input. I was um, coming back to that idea of sometimes some students, especially if they come from less fortunate families, the kids are sometimes they are responsible in taking care of their siblings, things like that, and they may not be able to make it even if we have the classes online, things like that. So actually PBD is supposed to make it easier actually for the teachers to adapt to the students availability to a certain extent, but it is up to the teachers I think personal effort, okay, to do that. um, this has certainly opened my mind on the possibility in improving our classroom-based assessment. But I'm sure there are possible ways that we can still improve, okay, to make sure that PBD or classroom-based assessment could be carried out successfully, or continued to be actually used, okay, by our teachers in school. So, ladies, can we start with Miss Sophia Atul?
Okay. How can we improve PBD? So I feel like there are several ways to look at it. For one, I think, and I think both of my panelists have also touched on this, it's basically the shift in mindset. I realized that many teachers who are more positive to the fact that now we have a lot more emphasis on PBD, when they are more positive, they tend to come up with, solution oriented methods on how to actually overcome the challenges with PBD. Because if you have this fixed mindset that, oh, I do not want to accept PBD, I want it to be the way it was back then, you it's hard for you to grow. I'm not saying that by having or adopting a positive mindset, it automatically all of your problems go away. I'm not saying that. I feel that when you have a more positive mindset, you will tend to look for solutions that suits you. Because sometimes even I, as a teacher, when I offer solutions, that might not necessarily fit the teacher. So, and I realize that when I adopt a positive mindset, I have come up with better solutions for myself. And if I can like show something on the screen, one of the things that I have done to say that by being more positive on the fact, you can actually come up with better innovations, better solutions. For example, I realized that when I was assessing students' writing, it was very difficult. It was very difficult for me to assess students' writing because I'm teaching more than 100 kids, and then that means 100 essays. So how would I approach that? So I came up with this innovation where I use an app that is meant to actually generate receipts for businesses. But instead of generating receipts for businesses, I changed the items to aspects of essay evaluation, like for example flow of ideas, grammar, punctuation, story flow, so on and so forth. And then the students get, they feel very excited upon receiving those receipts. And actually the total of the receipt is the total of the marks. Like I've already given each aspect a certain weightage, and that, like for example, if the receipt says 33 ringgit, that means it's 33 out of 40. So the students know how much they have performed in class. The students are very excited about learning, about improving, and they can see at which point exactly that they need to improve. Oh, so I see that I've gotten a very low price for say punctuation, so I know that I need to be more alert on my punctuation. So I think from teachers, they can try to be more positive. And then collectively, I think that there's definite need for teacher training and professional development when it comes to evaluation, because I hear like this term thrown out a lot, which is teacher autonomy. But I feel like even with teacher autonomy and teachers professional judgment, you need to have the training in order to exercise teacher training and teacher autonomy. Sorry, professional judgment and teacher autonomy. Like say the analogy is like professional judgment is like an anchor, right? So it needs to have something to actually latch onto. And I feel like a lot of teachers, the reason why they can dislike PVD is because they are confused, and sometimes it's rightly so why they are confused. And one of the suggestions that I've made is that I think, and I'm not quite sure if my panelists agree with it, I think it would be nice to have like some sort of visual representation for each performance level. Like teachers can see, oh, this is what a TP1 looks like, this is what a TP2 looks like, what this is what a TP6 looks like. And so it's easier even during the moderation process, which we are supposed to do among your colleagues. So teachers are not supposed to evaluate on their own all the time. There should be certain moments in your evaluation where you actually sit down with your colleagues, with your peers, and you discuss whether you are on, with par with everybody else. So that at least in the same school, my TP4 is not so much different from this other teacher's TP4. Okay. So that is the moderation process. And I feel like if somehow we can come up with a visual representation for each TP, that would actually help the moderation process a lot more. I know that there are certain states who have already started this, but they are doing it just within their own states or within their own schools. And I have heard very positive feedback because of that. So I think that those are my suggestions on how PBD can be improved.
Very impressive. Okay, what about Miss Fazila? Fazila,
I
anything?
wanted to talk about teacher mindset, the shift from
Mm.
going to traditional education system to classroom based. But I think it's also important to target parents.
Mm.
Um, Teachers have been trained or at least exposed to uh, the reasons why we
Mm.
need to make the shift.
Mhm.
But parents don't necessarily understand what we're doing. Hence, we see parents,
Being very resistant about it.
being very resistant and then
Yeah.
interfering,
Mhm.
uh, focusing on which TP their children is at.
Mm.
Parents need to understand that not everything is quantifiable.
Quantifiable, yeah.
Yeah, not everything can be numbered or graded. So there are things that we need to um uh what's the word,
Improve.
insight or encourage
Yeah.
within the classroom
Mhm.
that cannot be graded. So parents need to understand that classroom based assessment is completely different than UDAs are.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
Thank you, Miss Fazila. So, Miss Alina, any thoughts?
I think that what we can improve on is to take PBD as an advantage compared to exams. For exams, you only get the grade at the end of the year. So you only know how much your child would achieve. But for PBD, I would love it if for teachers they give a timely feedbacks before setting the final TP for that particular pupil. For example, they give okay, this boy he has achieved only TP4 or PL4. So what can he do to improve that? So teachers need to give feedback earlier on instead of just at the end of a year and then that's it, cannot change. So because science is like that, we have to go from the first topic until the end, and it's we have almost no time to go back to the earlier topics. So um maybe before going on to the next topic, I feel that teachers need to do the extra effort on giving the feedbacks and actionable insights that pupils can actually do in order to be in a better grade, better TP than they have.
Okay, thank you, Miss Halina. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, based on the session that we had today, we have covered so much and we have discovered so much. For example, I learned about tutorial receipt, I learned about pre and post assessment, I learned about PBD Telecam 2.0. So these are all things that we can actually implement in our class. And hopefully, as long as the students are given sufficient scaffolding, okay, guidance, support by the parents, okay, we give them clear expected goals. All right, the students will be able to experience beneficial learning process. So, before we conclude this session, okay, I would like to ask if our panelists have anything to share regarding your own personal thoughts and hopes for PPD.
I would like to start.
Okay, yes.
All right. So right now we are in the midst of this artificial intelligence rage, right? Like it's all the rage right now. I know a lot of teachers are using artificial intelligence to create pictures, to create the cover for their books, so on and so forth. So I feel like since this is all the rage now, it is definitely for the teacher to utilize this, improvement in technology. So I want to show on the screen an example of what I've done before, which is utilizing some the most basic of AI, which is ChatGPT. I'm very sure that viewers at home know about ChatGPT, and it's basically asking ChatGPT to create for me a rubric. Like before, we had to do the rubric manually. Now we can just simply ask ChatGPT to generate us one based on the learning standards in mere seconds. So I feel like if I heard like there was this quote like technology in the hands of a good teacher can be truly transformative. So use that to your advantage. And I feel like there are many other aspects of technology as well that you can definitely use and help the PBD experience not only make it more bearable but also fun. Like I don't want PBD to be associated with this negative connotation that is very burdensome, is very tedious. There are parts of it that we cannot deny that it can be that, but I feel like you should also enjoy the process. Yeah, so that's all from me.
Very well said, Miss Sofiato. So, Miss Halina, anything?
Okay, yeah, I agree on about AI, and also PBD also gave me and my pupils an insight of my pupils what they can do actually instead of just learning in the classroom answering questions. I let them present using a digital, for example, Canva, PowerPoint, or Google Slides, and their work are amazing. It's truly amazing. It's like I really wanted to print out some of them. It's just like a storybook, but it's all science facts. And the pictures that they took from the internet or from AI, they're really excellent. So yes, I would love to see that for PBD, it really enhanced the pupils' chance to show off what they can actually do without us even teaching that skill. So that's what I love about PBD.
Okay. Lastly, Miss Tisha Dila, anything?
My hope for PBD is that teachers will continue to equip themselves with the latest pedagogical skills and knowledge, because we have no choice. We used to be just the coach. Okay, if I were to use an sports analogy, during UPSR time, we used to be the coach, the trainer, and then we let our students be judged and evaluated by referees and judges. But we are in a time where we are the coaches, we are the trainers, and we are also the judges. So we have no choice but to prepare ourselves. And then if we are equipped with all the knowledge and skills that are needed to make PBD work, that means we can stand to our ground. Nobody can question us. That's all.
Okay. Very wise words, Teacher Dila. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, regretfully, I need to inform you that we have come to the end of this session. Personally, I have learned so much. Okay, so much from all of you ladies, and I hope audience at home you have too. So, once again, on behalf of the Institute of Teacher Education International Languages Campus, IPGKBA, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, Ms. Nurhalina binti Abdul Rahman, Ms. Sofia Nakia binti Muhammad, and Ms. Nur Fazila binti Nik Kamal for your time today. Our gratitude also goes to our technical team led by Mr. Satya, Mr. Daini, Mr. Fazi, and Mr. Azri. And not to forget our counterpart from Educational Technology and Resources Division, BSTP, Ministry of Education Malaysia, KPM, led by Mr. Kevin Raj and Ms. Jenny. That's all we have for today. Please do not forget to watch our next session, which will be live at 2:30 p.m. today. Till then, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Bye.